Hi, everybody. It's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about toxic positivity. And I really want to talk about this. I put it off for a while. It seems weird to be talking about it now with all the negativity in the world, but this channel is almost 3 years old, and there's always been a bunch of negativity in the world, and it doesn't seem to be going away. And I think this topic is important, and I'm going to say the word. I think it's very nuanced, which is why I kept putting it off. I know if I start talking about toxic positivity, people are going to think I'm talking about a particular game or developer or publisher. Can't stop that. By the way, 99% of those comments are wrong. Oh, Tim's thinking about this. And I think some of them are joking, but who can tell? Anyway, let's talk about what I consider to be toxic positivity. That's when you're so overly positive that you ignore all the negatives in something. You can only see that it's 100% good. I see this a lot online where people are like, this game is the best game ever in the entire world, and this TV show, it's the best TV show ever made, and it's 10 out of 10, and it's brilliant, and all this. Things can't just be good, they have to be great. And this can lead to a lot of issues. But to be clear, this is not me talking about optimism. When I did my video on overanalyzing, people thought I was talking about analyzing. And that over was doing a lot of heavy lifting in that video. I was talking about overanalyzing, analyzing to the point where now you don't even enjoy what you're looking at anymore. In this case, I'm talking about being so optimistic that you're now toxically positive and ignoring anything going wrong. It's that dog sitting in a room and everything's fine, even though everything's on fire. It's funny that I'd be talking about this because I did a video on me being naive and optimistic, and I am. In fact, I've had a producer that I've known for a long time and I respect really well. He has said to me multiple times, this person, he's done this thing before. Why is him doing it again surprising to you? And I'm like, I'm going to give you a couple examples, a game one and a non-game one, to explain what I mean. The game example, I used to attend a weekly meeting that summarized everything that was in development at the company I was at. It was a very high-end meeting. You had to have at least the word director in your name or like run the studio. This meeting was always just torrentially positive. This is going great. The docs are great. The team is great. Everything was always great. Then 1 week rolled around and a project was canceled and the director for that project was not there. I asked what happened because I said, I don't understand. Nobody said anything, so I raised my hand and said, I don't understand. Every week for the last year, everything's been going great on that project. And now it's canceled? I do not understand. Could somebody explain this to me? Because I have to admit, I'm looking at all the other project updates here with an eye going, are they really great? I was told by somebody above me this would be discussed later. Surprise. Spoiler alert, it was never discussed again. That's toxic positivity. If everything is great because nothing negative is ever discussed, then first of all, things aren't so great. And second, it won't ever be great because if you don't fix the problems, they're just going to grow and grow while you ignore them until finally things just have to be canceled. That project that got canceled, I think it easily could have been saved. But it wasn't because the problems were ignored until it was too late to do anything but cancel it. But here's a real life example. I have a friend, very happy, very fun, outgoing, very active online. And a bear, which is a member of the community I'm in, of bearded gentlemen of a certain girth, zoftigness, to speak. Online, he was all about body positivity, and he was overweight. But then he had a health scare. He was in his 40s. He had a very, very scary health evaluation at his doctor, and he was told, you need to lose weight or this is going to become catastrophic. Well, he started eating better, he went to the gym, and he got into really good shape, and his numbers all got better. And his doctor was like, this is great. And he documented it because he puts his whole life online. And he got slammed just by a few people, but they were very vocal about it. about no longer being body positive, that he was shaming people who were still overweight by getting into good shape to avoid dying. And here's the weird thing. The ones shaming him were the ones that were actually being body shaming. If you shame someone for being in really good shape, how's that different from shaming someone who's really overweight? And what was weird in his case is he really had a strong medical, defined, objective reason for trying to lose that weight and keep it off. And people were shaming him for doing it. And my mind just did not understand. And a mutual friend of ours said, that's toxic positivity. And I'm like, oh, I get it. And by the way, this happens a lot. This happens a lot in all kinds of things. No one ever wants to discuss problems. And they don't want to discuss them for various reasons. One, no one wants to be the negative person in the room. You're always negative. You're always bringing up problems. Because if you're the one who's always doing that, eventually you might start being ignored and seen as negative. But also you might be blamed for the reason things are going wrong. And I've seen that happen. This is not new. I've seen this happen before. I've mentioned on here that I saw a producer yelling at a QA lead for finding a bug. And at first I thought he was saying, well, why are you finding this now? But he was just mad the bug was found. That's the QA person's job. How could you be mad at that? Look, at some point in making a game, you need to look at everything with a very clear perspective, especially if you're the director. You can't be too negative, but you also can't be too positive because you have to fix things that can be fixed. I've talked about the things I focus on: crash bugs, builds that can't finish the game. If a player innocently makes a build and then gets to the end boss and there's no way that build can finish, can kill that boss, this is annoying. Frame rate is something a lot of people put up there. They're graphics programmers who that's what they devote their specialty to, is getting the frame rate fixed. A lot of people say I can't play a game with below a certain frame rate. A lot of consoles have as part of their I forget names all the time. There's a thing you have to meet. There's a specification you have to meet. They have minimum frame rate as part of that. And then there are things you can't fix. And this is why you have to have that, be able to see the negative things. Some things can't be fixed, but you can minimize the negative effect on the game. Maybe you have an attribute that's not used enough, and you discover that it's not used enough. You can go to your scripters and go, hey, there are a couple more places we could use this skill or this attribute to bring it in par with the other ones. Or maybe everything has a point system attached to it. So you're like, this one isn't used as much, so let's make it cheaper. It's cheaper to buy that attribute because it's not as useful in the game. It does have its uses, but not much, so it's cheap to get. Or make it a perk. Now it's completely optional and people don't have to buy it. And instead of having a lot of continuous levels, like maybe your attributes go to 10 or 20, it just has 3. I talked about that's a possibility for doing that with luck if I were to redo Fallout. Instead of having luck be an attribute and having to come up with what luck values 1 to 10 are, make 3 levels of luck as a perk. And each perk is a major noticeable change in how the player's luck affects his combat and non-combat skills. So there are ways you can look at something and go, that's a problem, and I can fix it. I can't get rid of it, but I can make it better. Basically what I'm saying here is being overly positive can be just as bad as being overly negative. And in a way, they're the same thing. They're focusing entirely on one thing and completely ignoring the other. And a director cannot do that. You cannot afford to do that if you're a game director. You have to have a critical eye. Is this good enough? Does this fit into the game? Artistically, thematically, someone has to decide that, and it's the game director. And the problem here is being 100% positive will not lead you to a good game or a good life. So that's my thoughts on toxic positivity.